The number of migrants crossing the English Channel this year has now surpassed 40,000. It's the highest number ever recorded.
Well, the figures released by the Ministry of Defence show a marked increase on last year when just over 28,000 crossings were documented.
Well, it follows protests in London by thousands of Albanians in opposition to the Home Secretary's rhetoric on immigration.
Well, let's speak to immigration lawyer Skylar McKeith. A very good morning to you, Skylar. I mean, just hearing those figures and the confirmed figures out over the last few days really gives you a sense of how this problem is getting out of control now. Do you get a sense that there is some sort of system in place to get a grip of this now?
Yeah, so this is a huge problem. And so the reason for these delays is that fewer decisions are being made on asylum applications, while the number of claims have actually increased. And this was a result of the 2020 pandemic, which led to certain Home Office changes, which basically slowed down the whole decision-making process. And so what happened was asylum interviews were suspended during the first lockdown, and then they recommenced via video conferencing. And so this led to a reduction in the number of decisions being made, resulting in a backlog. And we have actually seen a backlog in the application processing across most of the immigration categories, but the other immigration categories, such as work-related visas, are not experiencing delays in the same way as the asylum claims are. And the number of caseworkers at the Home Office has actually increased over the last decade, but the average number of interviews and decisions carried out each month has decreased.
Is it partly because of this delay and the fact that people, once they get here, are certainly staying here for a considerable amount of time before any decisions are made, that is encouraging more people to try to get across?
Yeah, well, the problem as well is that these asylum seekers are not allowed to work while their applications are in process. And so they instead rely on the government funds for the duration of their claim. And so the increasing numbers of the asylum seekers waiting for decisions is resulting in additional costs to the taxpayer. But at the same time, the conditions there's an immigration processing centre in Kent called Manston, and the conditions at Manston, it has been reported that these conditions are dire, and there are days when they run out of food and drinking water, and there are also inadequate cleaning regimes. So it's not all perfect, but they are still relying on taxpayer funds while they are here, as they are not allowed to work. And at the same time, though, the backlog affects the lives of these individuals, such as family life, mental health and well-being, while awaiting a decision. But it does cost the taxpayer a lot of money. It's estimated to be at least almost £9,000 per person for each year of the delay.
I mean, obviously, the huge problem is, most normal, right-thinking people can see that if people are fleeing war and tragedy, then, of course, as one of the richest nations on the planet, we want to be able to help these people. We did it wonderfully with Ukraine. We've got a history of doing it. But when you see people coming into the country and being put up, in some cases, in stately homes, costing £200 a night at a cost of £5.6 million per day to the taxpayer, this hotel situation is just untenable, and it really actually turns the public opinion and the public mood against this whole system.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are certain countries that people may be coming from are deemed safe countries by the UK government. And so according to certain figures, the nationality with the highest number of small boat arrivals is Albanian. And the UK government has stated that small boat crossings are dangerous and unnecessary for Albanians, as Albania is considered a safe country. And the Refugee Council has also said that it is critically important that ministers take urgent action to reduce the pressure on the asylum system. And something absolutely needs to be done, and it remains to be seen as to whether the Home Secretary's potential plan with Macron works in practice. But something definitely does need to be done to change the way the current system is. And currently, asylum seekers may be sent to a safe country that will consider their asylum claim, but this might happen if they've traveled to the UK through a safe third country or have a connection with another country that they could claim asylum in.
If someone, to use Albanians as an example, because you raised that as a safe country, if Albanians are crossing the Channel, why can't they be almost immediately deported?
It remains to be seen as to what the UK government is going to do, but the Home Office simply does not have the resources to deal with the influx. And this could also, it's an ongoing burden on the UK taxpayer. And so this issue is part of a larger problem. And the government needs to have further discussions with the EU potentially as to the approach needing to be taken.
OK, Skylar McKeith, thank you very much indeed, immigration lawyer, talking to us this morning. Thank you.
I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? And you do end up sounding heartless in a way. And so I was thinking that as I was saying, well, why not just immediately deport them? You end up sounding heartless. But this cannot continue at this rate. I mean, it just cannot.
Well, I think the point I was trying to make was that having people coming in vast numbers from safe countries takes away from those people who have genuine claims for asylum. And I think that's where I think the whole problem becomes really messy and people's sympathy runs out very, very quickly.
Very quickly. I say, especially with that £6 million a day being spent when we haven't got any money, really.